on the East Coast, it was time for Carl Johnson to go home. You see, his mother had passed away, and he realized that Staten Island was not the place for him anymore. So he hops on a plane to go back to San Andreas, where he somehow gets arrested. Time he gets back into his old neighborhood and joins his family's gang. Yes, this is the plotline to the video game Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. And the main character, Carl Johnson, realizes that the gang life isn't for him. So he goes off in the woods to realize that he needs to find himself before making such tough life decisions. And as a result, gang life was not the one for him. So when I look at today's quotation by Michelle Obama, we need to start putting ourselves on top of our to-do list. What we can take from this is that me time is perfectly okay. We will first take a look at how by taking me time, you can allow yourself time to work on yourself. Secondly, we will analyze how that once you take time for yourself and work on yourself, you can ultimately better your relationships with other people. And finally, we will see what happens if, unfortunately, you overindulge in me time and you can end up ruining relationships that should never have been ruined in the first place. But first, we must understand that me time is perfectly okay through how we can use it to work on ourselves. This is shown through the autobiography Chinese Cinderella by Adeline Yin Ma. Adeline Yin Ma is only 16 years old when she realizes that both her father and her stepmother do not love her. You see, she has 7 other brothers and sisters, and all of the love and attention is given to them. And Adeline, at the young age of 16, realizes that the only way to get through to her parents is through education. Because she was able to analyze this early in her life, that education was the way for her to indulge in me time, ultimately she was not only able to build a relationship with who she was as a person, but also how to build a relationship with her parents that clearly didn't want to love her. So Adeline Yin Ma shows us that if you just give yourself a little bit of me time, you give yourself the opportunity to work on yourself. And in the end, realize that by using education, you can actually better your situation. So next, we will analyze that once you take a little bit of me time, you can also better the relationships you make with other people. This is shown through the life of Isadora Duncan. Isadora Duncan was a dancer back in 1913. You see, when she was at the young age of 6, she created her own cute little dance studio and realized that one day she would be the most famous dancer in the world. However, society didn't think that of her. You see, Isadora Duncan believed that her artistic abilities came through when she didn't wear clothes on stage. Because of this, society shuns her and forces her to move to Paris. Isadora Duncan realizes that this time in Paris should be used for her to work on herself and ultimately rebuild that relationship that she shattered with society. Because of this, a French man over in Paris realizes Isadora Duncan's potential, and ultimately he signs her over to one of the most famous ballet studios in France. Isadora Duncan shows us that once you give yourself me time, you can ultimately be able to rebuild the relationships you make with other people, and in her case, society. This topic was the one that stood out to me the most when I was in the final round for Impromptu Speaking, mainly because I love Michelle Obama, and the quote itself was perfect for me because I believe in the concept of me time, and I realized that I had so many sources or topics that I could use with it. The message of this particular speech was that me time is completely okay. A lot of people believe that they should prioritize a lot better and not realize that me time should be something that should be on their to-do list, because in the end, it helps them better themselves and also better relationships with other people. For impromptu speaking, the first thing that I'll do is I'll write down the quote, because I'm a kinetic learner. I need to write things in order to remember them, and that helps me not use a note card when I go to perform. And then I'll write down what the quote means to me, and then from there I'll create 3 directions or 3 gateways, I suppose, to to express what I feel about the quotation. Impromptu is a lot different, considering that you do not know what you're going to talk about until you get into that round and the judge hands you an envelope with 3 quotes, 3 proverbs, or 3 words in it. And prior to that, like in the summer for camp, me and my teammate, we had to develop new sources, which could be people, places, books, things, stuff like that, movies. And those are the things that I use in order to provide evidence to the points in my speech.
How much time do they give you, and what is it like? Do you enjoy that challenge? Do you find it, is it stressful, you know?
They give you 2 minutes in order to prepare a 6-minute speech. And it's completely different from the other limited prep event that I'm in, which is called extemporaneous speaking, where you get 45 minutes to prep a political question, and you have sources like hard CNN, BBC type sources. But with impromptu, it's more of a challenge for me since I'm not used to that small time constraint, but also it's really great thinking on your feet and being able to tell people about things that you like. The first time I had an experience with nerves in an impromptu round, at least, was this past Saturday in my final round. And I was the last person to perform, so I had that entire time waiting in the hallway just to freak out about everything. But I realized that by the time I entered the room, judges, they can sense fear. So I had to walk in there confident, and just by acting confident, it seeped into how I was actually acting. And when I first started speaking, I was extremely nervous, like I was shaking and everything. But as I started to just calm down and assess the room, it was jam-packed. I just realized that I have to do what I have to do, and I calmed down. It's very hard to explain speech in itself, but I think most people during their high school careers, they should try it at some point, because you'll never regret all of those friendships that you'll make, and also the material that you come across. Even if you're creating a script yourself, like for informational speaking or original oratory, or if you get a script like the humorous duet acting, the duets themselves, acting out with other people, and some events like impromptu and extemporaneous speaking, just not knowing the element of surprise of going to the tournament and realizing what you're going to talk about. It's so much fun.